So we're getting the brand new expansion pack Life and Death next week, and I wanted to be able to build a graveyard in my game so that way I have a proper place to put all of my Sims' gravestones so their relatives and friends can mourn in peace and stop crying in their house 24/7. Now personally, I don't do a lot of community lot builds just because I don't really know what to do, and they have so many requirements that I thought building a graveyard on a generic lot 20 by 15 seemed like a perfect idea. It's small with no requirements, and also it's a place where dead Sims go to rest. However, with the brand new base game update that we got a couple of days ago, we can now play as a ghost. They can be free roaming or have the ghost live in your household. But you can also create them in Create a Sim, which I think is so cool. But the idea of having a cemetery with a little mausoleum where Sims who died can still freely roam out, in the world as they so please is a really cool idea. And the reason why I'm building this is because my sim Aspen Marie O'Connor has some relatives and some friends of hers that are dying soon, but also I have other save files that have elders or just random sims that are dying, and I wanted to have a proper place to put them so that way if they wanted to visit them on a remembrance day or just putting flowers on their gravestone, they now have a designated place to go to. And I didn't want to build something too big and too crazy because I don't really build a lot of community lots and I don't do a lot of graveyards, because sometimes what I'll usually do is put the gravestone in the backyard or the front yard and just have it laid out there, but it gets a little bit too annoying of having the ghost just breaking things constantly. But now they fixed it where Sims don't really break the objects anymore. They can woohoo in the objects whenever they so please, but the ghosts won't break them all the time and leave a little puddle making a mess, which is nice because it gets kind of cuckoo banana crazy when your stuff is breaking constantly with ghosts on your lot. And I always feel like where Sims who are thriving in their lives, like Nancy Landgraf or Judith Ward, and they have enemies that are basically this decaying. They always say, I may be slaying, but my sim friends are decaying. And I think it's kind of crazy to say that because they are decaying, but you're always slain. Now, my idea is that what if Bella Goth and Mortimer Goth got reincarnated into a whole brand new sim? Would they still find each other in their new life? Yes or no? Because the whole idea of the new expansion pack is you live and then you die, but you have a new sense of unfinished business, or you have a bucket list called your soul's journey. And the whole reincarnation rebirth thing is so cool to me. It makes me think, if I was reincarnated or whatever, would I still be doing what I am doing today? Or my Sims get reincarnated and they had lovers of so many years, would they find each other again? What if Bob and Eliza Pancakes got reincarnated? Would they be married in their new life? These are the things that I'm trying to ask here, and I need some answers because I believe Bob and Eliza would not, because they're both polar opposites. But then also Bella and Mortimer probably would always be destined, they would always be destined for each other just because it's Bella and Mortimer. It just makes sense. But I always think the idea of playing around with a new pack, you gotta figure out the bugs, see what works, see what doesn't work, but also find things that scream, I would use this in my everyday gameplay. Now, the idea of wills and Soul's Journey and bucket lists and funerals seem like a very good idea because that's something I would actually use in my everyday gameplay. And I always create these scenarios in my sim storylines of thinking, oh, if my sim dies, who gets what in the will? Will they get money? Will they get the house? Will they get the dog? Who really knows? And I'm at this point in my Sims gameplay where I need to create a will for all of my Sim characters so that way they're not left with nothing, their relatives or their children or whatever are left with nothing. And Aspen, she's an adult. She's not going to be an elder soon for a very long time. And I don't anticipate her of creating a will or a bucket list until after her fourth and final child. But I wanted to be able to put a grave site for Aspen's mother, Aspen Diane O'Connor. And it just seemed like a perfect place because she was a celebrity. She was a doctor, an actress, an author, an entrepreneur, you know, social media socialite, charity organizer. She did everything. And I wanted to have a place to put her to rest. And even though there are new caskets that we're going to get in the new EP, I wanted to build something with like without it. So that way I could play around with like some of the little caskets or like coffins that we got from vampires and also the gravestones. And I actually built this before we got the base game update, but I came back like the next day to finish it off because there was some new stuff I wanted to try and add, but I also forgot to finish it. So I'm like, let me just build this and then build another one because I'm thinking of building like a little graveyard just for werewolves and just for vampires, like for all the occults, now that we have proper gravestones for each and every occult. Aliens, mermaids, vampires, werewolves, spellcasters. Like even I don't think ghosts don't even have one, but I like the fact that we have a gravestone and an urn for mermaids now. So thinking about building an underwater grave site, which in reality it could work, but it's gonna be a little bit difficult for it to work. I want to do something because I don't play with mermaids that often and they don't have a skill tree. There's no purpose, but I want to try them out just to see what they're like and see how long I can play with them. I heard that if you play as a mermaid and they're an elder, they live a little bit longer, which I think is very cool. Because I'm a person who gets attached to their Sims quite easily. If I have a well thought out story and I have where I want them to live, who to meet, who to marry, who to have kids with, I'll get attached. And when they get older and older, I don't want to let them go. So I'm like thinking, what if I do play with every single occult in The Sims 4? That could be a possible fun thing to do, but will I get there eventually? Maybe not, but we'll see. But at this point in the build, I've been kind of struggling about the layout because I didn't really know how I wanted to lay out each and every grave. But I realized that it doesn't need to be cluttered. It doesn't need to be over the top. It needs to be something simple and easy where you can put your gravestones, put some flowers on the grave site, and then mosey on to your next thing in your day. But I heard that in like New Orleans or like other, graveyard cemeteries, they have like this one little area that's like raised off of the ground. Usually it's designated for like a very special person or people who pay a lot of money for that can have a gravestone on an elevated platform. And they have this in The Sims 3. I think they have about like 4 or 6 of them in The Sims 3 cemetery, more so in Sunset Valley that I noticed is that usually they're designated for like rich Sims, like the land grabs or the altos, or like other random ones that just usually have a lot of money or paid a lot of money for their sim to put to rest right there. And the mausoleum is a rabbit hole in The Sims 3. You can walk in, you can see some things, you can get scared, and I think there's also a career that your Sims can join to work at the gravesite, which I think is really fun. And so I wanted to be able to build something to prepare myself for that. And I might eventually build like another smaller one on like a 20 by 20 and still like do the same design, but add in all the new objects from the new expansion pack so I can see what it has to offer without being too crazy, if you know what I mean. But I do already have this on the gallery if you want to download it for yourself. It does use a variety of packs, but I would say it uses like cats and dogs, get to work, and like some of the other occult packs like vampires, werewolves, and realm of magic. And I think also crystal creation and some other stuff too, pretty much all of them. But I wanted to make it very special because I feel like every gravestone must have an object on it, whether it's flowers, whether it's a piece of tissues or dentures, random stuff. Because every gravestone has something on it saying a beloved one, a mother, a father, whatever, a distant relative, an ex that I hated so much, little things like that. But they always leave special objects near their gravestone to remember them in some sort of way. And I wanted to kind of reflect that of putting random stuff near the gravestones of like someone had this or someone had that. they wanted to be buried with it, or it's like a special little object that they had for so many years but didn't want to keep it, but wanted to show their appreciation for that sim. I think there's just like random things that I wanted to try and do. And again, I'm stepping out of my comfort zone, things that I don't normally build. And I actually really loved how this turned out. I was shocked at the very beginning of like, why am I building this? I don't know where it's gonna go. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. And towards the end, I was really, really pleased on the general outcome. From mostly the inside, I was really, really happy about, but the outside was confusing. I had all the gravestones laid out. I had all of them in the right place that I want them to have them in. It was just the general decoration. Because I'm a person who likes to fill in all the gaps. I don't like empty space. I love clutter. And so being able to add in little bits and bobs made sense. So I decided to take out the little pond thing in the middle and add an actual fountain, and then add some seats around it so it fills it in. But I think also too, less is more. You don't want to overcrowd things. You don't want to make things too complicated. I think going with the bare basics and then utilizing that lot for your own interpretation, for your own ideas, would be a lot better. Because I thought about, oh, I could add like a little, a little sandbox, or I can add a little extra tree or a grill. But at a gravesite, it seems kind of weird. I think if the lot was bigger, I could probably add in more, like a little bathroom facility. I thought of adding in a flower cart that we got from Lovestruck, and it seemed like a good idea, but I kind of scrapped that idea because it was seems like too big. But, never say never. There could always be another one for the future. And I think that's where I'm going to leave it off for now, because, like I said, I only built this so that way my Sims have a proper place for their gravestones and they're not just laying around in the world. Because one time I opened up my game, I traveled to San Myshuno just to go to the festival. Little do I know, I can't travel. And I'm thinking to myself, why can't I not travel? I go and find out there's the old salt house in San Myshuno in the Spice District. Not only were there already graves out in the front yard, there was another fire happening on the inside of the house that I could not go into. So I just pan my camera all the way to the back of the house, and I see the whole kitchen literally engulfed in flames. There were about 4 Sims in that house. There was a baby in the front of the house. All the Sims died except the baby, and I couldn't do anything at it because I couldn't travel and I couldn't get into the house. And this was all before we had, I think, the for rent pack where we could like break into houses. So it was a little bit difficult, but it happened. And now there are like several graves that I have to collect. And I honestly probably should go grave robbing or like grave hunting and just grab all the graves that I see and then lay them all out and then make a whole graveyard out of it, because it is absolutely insane. And it's in my save file that I play with the Career Legacy, 20 generations in one save file that I've played. And I'm thinking, how many graves can I find in one singular save of like 4+ years of playing? Probably over 100, which concerns me because Sims do age over time because of neighborhood stories, and Sims fall from cliffs, Pufferfish Nagiri death. It's like a whole thing. I realize we have over 30 different cause of deaths in The Sims 4. And I'm thinking, have I done all of them? No, but I low-key kind of want to. 30 deaths, 30 graves, 30 ghosts. All died from different things. And I'm thinking, this could be kind of fun. A good experiment. Make a graveyard, put 30 plots down, each one died from different things, and we hope for the best that it turns out well. But honestly, can we really do that? Yes, we can, and we'll try eventually, somewhere down the line. But regardless, I'm going to go ahead and go into the game and show you all the build in real time, because that way I can kind of explain a little bit more of what I was doing and give you all an idea of what's to come next. for the next build. So now that we're finally in the game, I can show you my very first ever graveyard build. And to be honest, for my first time building a graveyard, I am actually really pleased of what I've done here today. It may look too over the top and cluttered, but to me, it seems simple, but also cluttered with a purpose. Every build that I've ever done always has a meaning behind it, and it's cluttered with a purpose. Like this cemetery is named Earl E. Demise, and Earl E. Demise is actually an ex-fiance who's already dead of Olive Spectre from The Sims 2, and his grave is actually in her backyard. And so I wanted to kind of put that name into The Sims 4 because Olive Spectre may or may not be back in the new expansion pack, and Nervous Subject is in the new EP, so it only made sense to add some Sims 2 lore into The Sims 4, but in my own way. And I felt like Earl had like some special, money or objects that he wanted to be buried with or just didn't have a chance to. And so I wanted to make sure every single tombstone in this graveyard had like a special object near it or on it to showcase that maybe they loved gnomes, maybe they loved being a jungle explorer, or they loved soccer, or they love being in the Scouts, or love pumpkins, or random things that made them special in their past life that they wanted to be remembered by near their gravestone, if that makes sense. And it just adds a little touch of pizzazz to it, if you know what I mean. Now, these platforms on both sides, I wanted to have them elevated off of the floor because I felt like if they were elevated, they had a better status, a more prestigious career, social status, social media status, that they were richer and better than everybody else, so they wanted to have something to showcase in their afterlife. And I felt it was kind of funny of adding in like a plaque and also an easel, just so that way if Sims in their past life had like something to say or forgot to say, or in saying, hey, where's my 20 simoleons? Hey, what happened to X, Y, and Z? Hey, I really miss you. I hope you have a good afterlife. So I wanted to have like this easel to showcase little notes of other Sims saying something when they couldn't say it when they were alive. And then showing off like this plaque of saying, oh, so-and-so, you'll be missed, I hated you, lived and died, whatever. And then of course having their little special little object. I might eventually build another one that's similar to this, but in a different way. Because with the new graves in base game, we can now change them to be displayed as like an urn or a gravestone. And there's different kinds, especially for mermaids now, and it's really, really, really cool. But over here on this side, on both sides actually, I wanted to cover them up and add like an awning, but the awnings weren't working for me. So I made my own, added some little flowers, some columns here, and of course adding in some objects and bits and bobs near the tombstones. But on the inside is my really, really favorite part of this build. Now inside, I wanted to add in everything I could think of, clutter it up, add all the special little objects, and just make it very personal. And I felt like not a vampire lived in here. Someone really, really, really famous died and then got buried in a mausoleum, or like the mayor of Newcrest or the mayor of whatever town was buried in their own mausoleum. It can only be accessed through family members who have a key or a special little thumbprint or whatever. But I wanted to add in like a little coffin and like a bunch of flowers and necklaces and jewelry and all the little random stuff inside, but also adding in security cameras because people do be grave robbing some graves and being crazy. So I thought adding in some extra security seemed like a very good idea. I also added in some stacks of nectar crates and also a nectar rack because I felt like they might have some extra stuff. Plus, at the time when I was building this, my brain was immediately going towards the Vampire Diaries like mausoleum, where they have like this family crypt or whatever, where the Salvatore family are buried and they have all their extra things like candles and wine or whatever. So adding in all of this made sense, but also too, I love me some Vampire Diaries and I want to showcase that in some similar way. At the nighttime, it looks very well lit up for all the candles displaying near the tombstones, and I really, really love how it turned out. But as always, do let me know down in the comments below of what you thought of today's build, especially have you created a ghost in The Sims 4 with the brand new base game update? If you have, tell me their story, and if you haven't, you should do it now before the new EP comes out. But if you want to go and download it, it's on the gallery under the hashtag SpringSims or my gallery ID, which is also SpringSims. But go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all next time. Bye!